You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Hi, I'm Bella Perez Rubio, Puma Podcast, and this is Taka Taka News.
People of Thailand have already spoken their wish, and I am ready to be the Prime Minister for all, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me.
A record number of Thai voters have delivered a crushing blow to the military-backed establishment at the ballot box.
I have the ability to form a majority government coalition because at least there's only two parties that have passed the 100 milestones, and the incumbent did not manage to pass that at all. So I think
Voters gave the most parliamentary seats to the progressive Move Forward Party. The party's leader, 42-year-old Pita Limjaronrat, is now the frontrunner in the race for Prime Minister. In this episode, an insider talks us through this major victory for the opposition.
My name is Khunthida Rungrungkiat. I was a former deputy leader of Future Forward Party, and I was an MP for 11 months. Currently, I am a director of Progressive Movement Foundation, which is like a spin-off after Future Forward Party was dissolved.
Am I correct in understanding that Future Forward is like a previous iteration of what we now know as Move Forward?
Yes.
Oh, so you were there when the elections happened?
Yeah, I was the Move Forward Party campaigner.
Could you talk us through the political atmosphere leading up to the elections? Let's say 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. What would the headlines have been like?
This election is quite special in the sense that people have become interested in the structural change, not just the economic change. Of course, people become interested in, how their life would be better, but they are also interested in whether the military or the army will be reformed or not, whether the conscription will be compulsory or not compulsory. I think this year, Thailand has seen the highest number of public debates. So in many of the debates, another topic that has been discussed openly is the issue of Article 112 or lèse majesté.
Under the lèse majesté law, defaming, insulting, or threatening the monarchy is punishable by up to 15 years in jail. Move Forward was the only party that vowed to change that. Could you talk us through what the elections were like? How did they play out?
It was clear from earlier on because we have the highest support from the taxpayer money in Thailand. You can donate 500 baht of your tax money to your favorite political party. You have to show your intent in your tax form. And Move Forward Party has, I think, around 20 million baht. 4 years ago, MFP had 6.3 million voters when Future Forward Party was elected. Now it's around 14 million votes for Move Forward Party. So you can see that the numbers has grown.
So what inspired this groundswell of support for Move Forward?
Move Forward Party also have this clear-cut statement that if the government, when the election's over, if the government has the political party of the military-led political party, we will not join the government. And I guess people are looking for that. People were looking for the end of the coup d'etat, the end of the military involvement in Thai politics. It has been 8 years. It's really like almost a decade. It's really long. And people have expressed their view that they want democracy. I think people want to trust to, the political party that they can see that the party will be in what we call the progressive politics rather than, the same old politics.
Khunthida says Move Forward and Pho Thai, literally for Thai, got combined votes of 25 million. That's equivalent to more than 60% of the estimated 40 million who voted in this month's elections. You mentioned the other opposition party, and we monitor reports that you're now in the process of hammering out this coalition that you formed. Could you briefly explain to our listeners why you had to form a coalition in the first place, and then tell us about how it's going?
Because the number of the number one and number two party that won election, the number of seats comes really close. So it Move Forward got 152 and Thai got 141. In order to make sure that the lower house function, the Move Forward party wants to make sure that we can consolidate the parties in the pro-democratic camp to join in this particular coalition. But forming coalition is one, but then you add the Senate into the equation, meaning that the Senate would also have to vote for Khunthida as a prime minister as well. It's quite tricky in the sense because if the Senates were appointed by the military.
Pheu Thai is the more established opposition party in Thailand and finished close behind Move Forward in this year's elections. In total, the 8-party coalition led by Move Forward controls 313 seats, or 62.6% of the total 500 seats in the lower house. But a 250-seat Senate full of military appointees could stand in the way of Move Forward's chosen prime minister. You mentioned Pita. Can you tell us a bit more about him? What sets him apart to previous prime ministers that you've had?
Pita has always been interested in politics since very, very younger days. In New Zealand, I think he did his secondary school there.
He also has a master's degree in public policy from the Harvard Kennedy School.
I met him during the Future Forward days. I was party list number 5, he was number 4. So we were colleagues, basically. What sets him apart is that he has been very professional. We have not seen this during the past 8 years from the general. If you listen to his debates, he has always been, as I said, clear-cut on what the party would do. I think it's the charm of someone who understands what's going on in Thailand and what's going on in the world that we have not seen during the past 8 years in the leader of Thailand. Now he also expressed his interest in international policies as well. So Kun Prayut or the General Prayut has never done that during his past 8 years.
We get into why the conversations around the military and the monarchy have been central to these elections after a quick break. So, if this goes out to mostly young Filipino listeners, not sure how well they've kept up with Thai elections, but if they've seen headlines or read stories, what they've probably read goes along the lines of something like the opposition defeats the military-backed establishment or administration. I was hoping you could talk us through what is the relationship between Thai politics and the military, and why do they call the current administration a military-backed one?
I'm not sure if your listeners, how much they are familiar with Thai politics, but we do have so many coup d'etats.
In fact, Thailand by far has the most military coups in the world. Their current prime minister, Prayut Chan-o-cha, came into power after leading the most recent coup in 2014. Only 2 elections have been held since then.
And also, we do have so many constitutions drafted after the coup d'etat. So there is one article in Bangkok Post to say that the current constitution is actually a straitjacket of Thailand democratic process. So in that current constitution drafted by the military appointed committee, there are mechanisms that set up that prevent perhaps Thailand to really become a fully functional democratic country. So for example, we do have 500 MPs in the lower house. And when we had the election on the 14th of May, we elect these 500 MPs, right, in the lower house. But in this particular constitution, it also sets up the Senate system. So there are 250 Senates in the upper house who also have the voting power to choose or to vote for the prime minister. So when you do the math, it's 250 Senates against 500 MPs in the lower house. And the Senates are appointed by the NCPO.
That's the National Council for Peace and Order.
Basically, the military.
Another thing that's unfamiliar for us as Filipino citizens is having a royalty in the first place. So in Thailand's specific context, what role does the royalty play and how are they connected to politics?
This is a bit challenging to discuss in the public. By law, we are under constitutional monarchy. So by law, the monarchy doesn't really have the direct connection to the parliament. That should be the case. But there are also challenges. For example, I remember the first year when I was in the parliament that when we want to criticize the budget of the royal family, for example, we were told that no one has done that before.
Enforcement of the law that prohibits criticizing the monarchy has increased since the coup in 2014.
The thing is that when we mention the word against or defame or attack, these are extremely vague and it is extremely up to the interpretation of the authority. I don't have the number with me at the moment, but the number of political charges, it's not just the lèse majesté charge that is used against people who perhaps have different views from the military. I reckon that the number could be more than 2,000 cases during these years. That's why Move Forward Party suggests that it should not be that anyone at all in Thailand can file the complaints against another person on this Article 112, but it should be perhaps an organization like the Royal Office. If they see that, there are people who actually have a very malicious intent to the monarchy who can file the complaints.
As good as the news has been coming out of Thailand and learning about Move Forward, I still am also seeing in reports, even with the coalition formed, some people are still afraid that they might not get to see this government that they voted for. Can you speak about that? Are those valid fears to have?
I understand the fear of people, of course, because we have been in this loop for so many times that, when the democracy becomes stronger, then there is this interference from the military. I truly understand the fear of people. But this particular election has been really different from other elections. People have expressed their view for change. And this will be the part of the equation that the military will have to think hard whether, they will continue doing the same as in the past. Because I think the cost is extremely hefty for them, seeing this number of people. I think for Thai people, there is one thing that, the voters and the democratic supporters can do is that they can, start expressing their view that no matter what, Pita will be the prime minister of every Thai. If you like him, if you don't like him, he will serve as the prime minister of Thailand, of everyone.
Here's Move Forward's leader and the favorite to become Thailand's next prime minister, Pita Limjaronrat, with the final word.
I think it's fair to say that it's the sentiment of the era that has changed. And the job or the duty of member of parliament is to speak on the behalf of people, is to pass progressive laws, is to make sure that we support the duty of the government. And that was my past duty. Now I'm the government.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was edited by Carl Sayat. Follow Teka Teka News on your favorite podcast app or listen to us for free on YouTube. Thanks for listening.